Art is based on skill, talent, and perseverance is able to reach the heart of the viewer, and that is the main goal of any creator. The participants of the program Generation UA are endowed with artistic and creative imagination. Each work is unique in its own way, the mirror that reflects the state of the souls of the creative people. And that is a very important factor. After all, it takes a lot of effort to get some lifeless paints, find a blank canvas, and paint a picture that is truly breathtaking for the average viewer. An artist is a person who, first of all, makes the best efforts to make a contribution, if not to world art culture, then at least to Ukrainian culture. Their paintings are like an imprint of what happened during their lives. I think artists are people who, just like musicians, actors and athletes, should inspire others to do something serious and create something beautiful.
Спортсмены, они должны вдохновлять людей на другие какие-то поступки, на то, чтобы они творили что-то прекрасное. У нас в стране очень много талантливых.
There are a lot of talented artists in our country. The only problem is that there is no an art market in Ukraine as such. A genuine art market requires a large number of collectors, but the fact is that there are very few of them here. Paintings are now mostly bought as interior decorations, not as pieces of art that collectors would be interested in buying. If you want to become a true artist and create art instead of just being an artisan, you must know how the art market functions, and you must have certain acquaintances and good contacts in order to participate in renowned foreign and Ukrainian auctions and art fairs. It's quite a difficult process, and not every artist in Ukraine has the ability to establish such contacts. I believe that success depends on the seriousness of the goal that one sets, the sincerity of the desire to achieve that goal, and have a love and positive attitude towards your cause. I started painting quite a long time ago, since I was about 10. I'm an interior designer by education, and I really like this profession. Painting was always a hobby for me. It was a kind of entertainment for me, and I never thought that I would become an artist when I would grow up. But when I was studying in university, I realized that I had to decide and become either a designer or an artist. What would I tie my future life to? So in the end, I chose the profession of an artist, because I felt comfortable and I really liked it. I started painting pictures from the age of 10. My brother gave me a set of oil paints for my birthday, but I couldn't dare to start painting with them for a long time, as I thought it was beyond my capabilities, and that it was more professional stage that I was not ready for at the time. Nevertheless, after some time passed and I decided to try painting with oil, I liked it very much and have been painting pictures ever since then. I think it all started probably in my early childhood. I always liked to draw, and I always came up with some installations and something to sculpt. Although I became interested in painting in school, I was actually even more interested in clothing design. So I decided that I wanted to continue studying in that sphere. But it turned out that I ended up studying as an art critic. I really liked and admired that occupation. But then one day I popped into an art store when I was very close to finishing my master's degree. I had never before touched the canvases, professional acrylic and oil paints with my hands. Paints were beautiful, and the tubes were totally cool, so I thought I had to give it a try. I bought those tubes of paint together with a minuscule canvas, which I considered gigantic at the time. It was so white that I was afraid to touch it, not to spoil anything. I had to try working with these beautiful paints and cool tubes. Then I returned home, started painting, and it turned out to be a kind of psychedelic painting because it consisted of multiple tiny ornaments. I think that what attracts me the most about art and in painting is the complete freedom of expression that you have. In other words, I felt that I am the master of what I create and I can freely work with canvas, paper or cloth.
интересное, на ткани работать.
В университетах есть специальные школы.
There are special schools for that in universities, but I started on my own. You can learn the basics yourself. If you want to paint using classic techniques, you won't go far without the basics.
Без этого никуда не пойдешь.
I believe that most learning institutions only limit your horizons. They don't contribute to the development of an artist. You will constantly imitate someone when you grow up. Otherwise, you develop on your own, and you will create some work in any way that you can imagine and however you want. I learned everything myself. I did what I felt was right.
Всему сам, вот как чувствовал, так и делал. Мне вообще очень нравится писать морские.
I really like painting seascapes. That's why I painted seas very often when I was a kid. I remember that my first work was sold when I was 12, which gave me great satisfaction. I used to paint based on photos or other paintings, just for myself, to hone my technique and learn how to correctly depict light. Now I mostly paint from my mind. All the landscapes, every single one of them. I have a positive attitude to criticism, as it helps me develop my skills, techniques and creativity, even though it may not be that pleasant sometimes.
Она способствует развитию, хотя, конечно же, не совсем иногда приятно ее слушать.
I showed my first work to my parents. Their opinion was always important. So for me, their criticism was the important thing for my self-improvement as an artist.
Самым главным критиком.
Я думаю, что
I think that, first of all, a person should have an inner gift. And not even so much a gift, but a strong passion. For example, I have no artistic professional or academic education. My professional existence as an artist began several years ago at a contemporary art school. We were preparing paintings for a project, and there was a lesson for which we were told to bring our canvases and sketches. Then they would approve our sketches, make some corrections, and then we would work on them under the supervision of the teachers. So when I brought my sketch, naturally it was a failure. I remember that it was a sketch with small details. I thought it was so cool that I was making something minute. My teacher then told me that it was a cool sketch, but after that I had to divide it by 10 or even by 20, take just one small square and paint it. My brain then started working again. After all, the teacher knows better. Yes, I finished that painting. I remember the moment when I was looking at what I had created but simply could not understand what exactly was strange or peculiar about it. Then my teacher came and drew a diagonal line with black paint across the whole painting and advised me to look at it carefully and continue working only after I understand what he was hinting at. I spent about a week looking at that painting, trying to see something in it. But then I realized that it wouldn't work and that I just had to move on to something new and then ponder the essence of that painting at some point later. And it just so happened that I had a sudden revelation after that painting. I realized that free will is a very important notion for an artist, and that I should not try to deliberately limit my horizons as a creative person. The essence of my workflow is that I never make sketches. I simply cannot work with them. So I am very grateful to that teacher for showing me that way. There were a lot of difficulties, but speaking of the initial, fundamental problems, it was the search for a workshop. I used to work at home at first, but when my room turned into a messy studio of paints, cans and splatters, I realized that it would not work out and that I had to find an appropriate studio for engaging in such artistic work and just room. After all, it had become a job for me, not simply a casual hobby. Conceptual art is very popular in Ukraine nowadays. That includes all kinds of installations. Painting as such, especially classical and impressionism, is very quickly moving into the background. We are now more focused on the Western market and are moving in that direction.
Я очень долго
I had been painting for a long time according to the classic techniques. Those were forests, city and sea landscapes. But there came a period of time when that was simply not enough for me, and I wanted to go beyond that realm.
нечто большего, то есть я переключился на сюрреализм.
I switched to surrealism because it is easier for me to express my emotions and concerns and raise important social and spiritual issues.
Социальные или там духовные темы. Вообще стиль художника формируется достаточно.
By and large, an artist's style forms gradually, not at once. It's a very long process. But it's so important for an artist to have some authenticity, so that they can be recognized among other artists.
Собственный почерк, узнаваемость, чтобы его узнавали среди других художников.
It's hard for me to judge myself, as I'd been painting realism for a long while, and today I have made a transition to surrealism. I'm still honing my technique, but I think I will eventually achieve my goal with time. Many are starting to recognize my paintings among other artists.
Я работаю с абстракцией.
I work with abstraction now, but when I first started, I tried painting figurative things, which did not go well, and gradually turned into abstraction.
Все перешло постепенно в абстракцию. Сейчас я
I feel quite free in this direction. I like abstraction, and I hope that I'll keep developing in this style.
Я надеюсь, что я буду все больше и больше развиваться в этом стиле. У меня часто
I'm often asked if I have a technique of my own, or if there is some distinctive feature in my artistic style.
Своя вот такая вот именно отличительная черта. Я никогда не
I never strived to work in a very narrow direction.
Работать в чем-то узконаправленном. Некоторые художники находят для себя.
Some artists find certain materials that they use every time,
Я никогда не стремилась к
but
этому.
I never sought to follow in their footsteps and create my work according to their concepts.
Всегда с музыки. Я в принципе.
On the contrary, I like trying something new. For me personally, the process of creating a painting always begins with music. I always say that music inspires me. I love music and I live by it.
С той или иной песней либо композицией. Я люблю писать все на одном
I
дыхании.
like finishing the whole painting in one sitting. I believe that's how the most honest and sincere artworks are created. I did try painting in several stages over the course of several days. I don't mean the works that require certain preparation from the technical standpoint, for example, if it's volumetric with the use of styrofoam. You can't finish those in one day, of course. What I mean is abstraction, just a canvas and paint.
Я сейчас имею в виду именно абстракции, которые только холст, краска. Моя самая любимая работа — это Феррали, я ее написала прошлой осенью. Почему?
My favorite work is the Feral. I painted it last autumn. Why is it my favorite work? Because I think it's the most honest and sincere. It is connected with a very interesting story I was once told. I rarely make paintings inspired by something I was told, but I liked that story. That person told me they had a dream, and when they woke up, they had the word feral on their mind. It meant for me a search of fear in mundane things in life that surround us everywhere and all the time. I like that topic. I found an echo of something personal in it, because I'm also afraid of many things.
Своего личного, потому что я тоже, как-то многих вещей боюсь.
В Украине очень много.
There are all kinds of various contests, exhibitions, and art weeks in Ukraine.
Например, украинский тоже проходит.
If an artist wants to truly become a genuine artist, they must take part in group and personal exhibitions.
Участие в коллективных выставках, так и персональных выставках.
I remember being very anxious during my first personal exhibition. I was very young, and it was a very significant and exciting event for me. But it turned out to be quite successful. I was satisfied, especially because visitors of the exhibition gladly bought 6 of my paintings.
Первый конкурс, в котором я приняла
The first contest I participated in was at the platform Art Plant. It was very frightening. I had to make a painting in 2 days, and the way we worked was that anyone who passed us by could ask what we were working on. Seeing as I had no experience in participating in such contests and exhibitions, it was frightening for me.
У меня практически не было практики участия вообще, как в конкурсах, так и выставках.
But I liked it in the end and realized that I would continue to participate and put my best efforts forward in my creative work.
Наверное, самое запоминающееся и яркое
The brightest and most memorable event was probably my first personal exhibition. It took place last year, and what's interesting is that 2 months prior to it, when I found out that everything was fine and it would take place, I approached it very seriously. I wanted to present every single one of my newest works. I did not want to live with the echoes of the past. Yes, there are young artistic communities in Ukraine, and I think there are quite a lot of them. It's just that those are small groups of like-minded people who like discussing their common interests.